We will call to order the regular committee of the whole. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Summers. Here. Detterman.
There we go.
Detterman.
Here.
Seeley.
Here.
Davis. Here. Obrin.
Here.
Lessman.
Here.
Kearns. Here.
Councilmember Seeley.
So this is just, so right now, our city code has Pat O'Connell acting. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. Oh, perfect. So within our code, it talks about if let's say something happens to Matt, we can come together as a council. Then we can designate somebody to act as city administrator, whether that be temporarily. Kind of like we did when Jessica left. We had Dick Schraud come in. We appointed him to act as city administrator
Interim,
while we were finding Matt. Now so that's fine. But that's up for discussion too. Is everybody okay with that part, that process? That was changed in 2013. August 2013 is when that city council put that into place.
And it was based on, too, for history's sake, that they used to have an attorney sitting here.
Yes.
Not contracted out, so.
Yep.
So you're saying in Matt's absence, Pat would be.
Right now, so if you go down a little further, the city attorney is acting administrator during all excused absences. So Matt and I talked about that, and I'm sure he's got some information to show you, because I don't think it's in our best interest to have someone we contract with to be acting in Matt's capacity. Unless it is in our best interest, I don't know.
Well,
So-
and it's kind of complex,
Yep.
right? So it depends on what it is, because if it's basically an administrative oversight item, it's the clerk, right? That's where things go to. If it's a legal matter, of course, it goes to Lynch Dallas. If it's public safety, of course, we have our police and fire chiefs. If it's emergency or natural disaster, which we went through, we have the mayor, we have public safety chiefs all coming together, or if it's a special project, or even when a building falls, right? Who's responsible? And we use this example when Councilmember Seeley and I were talking. Lisa stepped up with Tammy, but that's also would be on the fire side too, because it's a fire code thing of a building collapsing. So those things are already in place, but then it really comes down to is, if I'm not actually available, incapacitated, and we have, say, a personnel issue, like we need an investigation done, well, we could go to Lynch Dallas, or we could actually go to a department head, right? And so then that got me thinking too, and so I looked across our comparables and with bigger cities, and it amazed me that most everybody doesn't even have a policy or an ordinance that dictates what to do when the city administrator is gone for an extended period of time.
Oh, okay.
It kind of floored me, actually. The places that are bigger, like Dubuque, they'll have like a deputy city administrator assistant, and they'll step in. But even Bentdorf, there's no one, there's basically says that, there's nothing in code, and the HR initiate recruitment for permanent vacancy.
Okay.
But I just want to show you the background. So actually, as Cody and Seeley and I were talking further, Councilmember Seeley and I were talking further, it could be easy just to replace this with a department head, city official, something, city officer. But then kind of as I went through this today, I said, well, you know what? At the end of the day, why not change some verbiage and put in that I would put in writing the department head that would be in charge for that extended period of time, or if I'm incapacitated, because you don't want to do it after the fact because it defeats the purpose. But I left in there, though, the city administrator shall designate as acting city administrator, subject to the approval of city council, a department head to exercise the powers and perform the duties of city administrator during absence or disability. This designation shall be by letter filed with the city clerk. So then that way you guys would approve that letter. Like I say, department head X will be the city administrator. I would bring that to you all. You would approve that, and then we put it on file.
Yep.
So in that, it's sort of like doing your life insurance before you pass,
Well,
right?
what's interesting is that may change from time to time.
Yes, and that's why I put department head versus putting a specific
Yeah.
position, because you might have a more senior person that's over here, they retire.
Yeah.
And that might not be best to have that person the
Correct.
next time.
So
You
then
might,
you're going to have to remember, oh, shoot, I got to update that.
Yep.
At that time.
True.
You know what I mean?
well, I didn't even remember when you brought this in 2023 to do this.
Well, it's actually him.
Oh, yeah. So then I put also, so I kept the same verbiage where you guys have the same amount of control for this, but during such absence or disability, the city council may revoke such designation at any time and shall appoint another. So say you appointed department head A, and then and that person didn't work out. You still have the authority, as you do today, to do department head B. right?
Okay.
And then to serve as acting city administrator until the city administrator shall return or disability shall cease. And then the city council may also appoint an acting city administrator anytime there is a vacancy of the office of city administrator. So I put in there, anytime you still hold that authority and that control on putting somebody in there. It's basically just codifying on a memorandum for record that you guys approve that will be on file that says, if heaven forbid something happens, this is who you'd go to. Now, so this is a cow, so you guys have time to think about this. We're going to bring this 31.071 back to you to say, okay, does this make sense? Do you want more refinement? Do you want to know, I want to know exactly the person, or is department head okay? Because then what's going to happen is once you codify this and approve it, I'm going to do a letter, and I'm
then
going
we'll
to
accept
fill in a person.
Yeah. And then we'll just.
Then you guys have to accept that at that time or not.
Yep.
Now, should you have in there that this should be reviewed annually? Because things change every year.
Well, and that's the only
Yeah.
thing that might become complex is not forgetting.
Unless something major happens.
Yeah, like if the one you've designated were to leave and we forgot to do that, and then.
The new person isn't spun up yet.
So under normal circumstances, let's say Matt's on vacation for a week, it's very unlikely we're going to have an issue.
Right.
However, we also didn't know the derecho was coming. And that may be a situation where, hey, we can't even get a hold of Matt. Who's in charge of executing the things that need to take place? So, or even,
Well, even like when the building fell
the
down.
building fell, or in today's age, cyber attacks. What,
Yeah.
what if we become where, something happens where we can't communicate, with
Yeah.
with him, and there just has to be. So I mean, yeah, this is. I don't have a problem with this per se.
And
as long as
horrible
we
things
keep
like when we lost Eric is, what are the actions that need to be taken right now?
Yeah.
Because you can't wait for a memo to be done to get somebody to go to the
Right.
hospital and do those.
Yeah.
It has to be like right now. So just prior planning to be in that position, heaven forbid anything bad would happen, that
Yeah.
would be ready for.
Yep, because, we have another derecho come through. Well, police and fire and public works are going to know what they need to do. They're going to start reacting. But then there's other things that tie in with their reaction that requires, maybe would require Krista or would require finance. And so
Yeah.
as long as there's a center point of contact that's delegating and collaborating, I think that's fine. I don't, you know what I mean?
The one thing that has always been on my mind is that there are some people that we do not want to be sitting in the position because of their responsibility, like, and I'll pick on Pat because of his legal expertise, we need to make sure that we're covered legally the whole way. And if he's sitting in that chair as the acting city administrator, having that legal piece, be the same thing like HR. If we have an HR director, and there's an HR issue that comes up, that HR person is now trying to wear two hats at the same time. And so that kind of enters into my mind, also, if we're doing something, there may be a reason.
You think it would create conflict?
It could potentially create conflict, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like if maybe there's a reason to have, I don't want to say in that letter, but if it is an issue with A, B, C, or D, then this is the acting city administrator. If it's, E, G, H, or I, then it's this person, just because of what the particular
Yeah.
issue is.
I think it's got to be one person.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying
And
that's
person
where my.
I think
my hurdle
all
is.
the department heads have a number two, so to speak.
Yes.
So
Right.
if someone's dealing with the administrator stuff, they have a number two that can handle the department stuff. But I do think
Okay.
in this, it needs to be one person, because if chaos is happening, that's when this situation would come, right?
Right.
Not during normal time.
Oh,
It would
gosh,
come
yes. Oh, yeah,
chaos,
we're
right?
talking chaos,
They need to
yeah.
have one person that's making that final decision.
And it would be
I think-
nice to have it in codified so that person would be prepared when that comes.
And
Right.
I do think going through this, because we talked about this for a while today too, that Matt knows his team the best, and I think it probably is good to have you choose that person versus have a blanket of this
Yeah.
department because, yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think that actually makes good sense.
But you guys will know about it,
Yeah.
because like I said, you have to
Yeah.
approve it. But then that gives that person the ability, and hopefully I'll talk to them first, so they, okay? But to get them spun up on things, because it's not gonna be everything. There's gonna be certain things that they need to be aware of and be able to, and handle, and know where to go to push the right buttons to get things done.
Yep.
And the other thing is that you're naming a department head, so let's say you pick A and that person retires in 6
Yep.
months. We do have the authority to revoke should it
Yes.
happen 2 months after a new person is named.
Yes. Yep.
So,
Yeah, Matt's gonna actually have to stay on top of this to
Yep.
make sure, and maybe it is an annual review
I
or
think it's a good calendar reminder annually.
calendar
Yep.
reminder type situation.
Yep.
I wonder, should you list the primary and then a backup, just so it's there, just in case, or? I don't know, that
Yeah.
might complicate things.
Well, I know Krista doesn't hear this, but the majority of things actually would fall back to the clerk.
That's-
There's a
we-
huge amount of
it's what
stuff
I've
that goes
read,
there.
Yeah.
And then,
So-
and then the legal matters go to legal. So at the end of the day, it's really being a focal point for you all.
Yeah.
So who contacts the person here to get what's going on? Because I was thinking about when we were doing like Duratio and we had the TV cameras and you were doing speeches and all that needs to be coordinated. Krista can assist, but it'd be nice to have that department head kind of wrangling everybody together for that.
Yeah, that stuff did get kind of hectic
Yeah.
when we're trying to put that together. Even when the building collapsed, Lisa and I
Yep.
were down here on the phone with Pat doing the press release, you know,
Yep.
at whatever, 9 o'clock at night or whatever it was, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we'll be leading the way because like I said, maybe the others will follow because they're,
That surprises me.
I know.
Big time.
I had to keep going because I kept picking comparables, trying to find one, and I had to pick another one, and then another one, and I'm like, yeah. So I would bring this back to you guys based on your discussion today, bring this back to a normal business meeting, and we still have time to look over, review it, and,
Does Pat need to look at the language, or did you already help
I don't,
write that? I mean,
So I saw that
Yeah.
language and my suggestion was just a clerk because 60% of the cities in Iowa just have a clerk.
Default to
And
clerk,
that's,
yeah.
they
Oh.
are the city administrator, so for backup, I just said, say the clerk. You know, that was my suggestion, but I'm fine with this. I mean, if you had the only thing I question is, I gotta ask.
Yep.
Assume you mean you'd have a standing letter in place
yes.
so that anytime
That
you're
person would
gone,
know.
it's whoever it is, it's
Yep.
the police chief that's gonna be the acting city administrator whenever I'm on vacation, if any calls need to be made, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that would work too, it doesn't matter to
It's really
me.
gonna be emergency situations that.
It's just,
Well,
like,
because we had that
the
discussion.
only reason I suggested the clerk is because when I work with cities that are not Clinton, right, a lot of times that's who I'm dealing with is the clerk, all the time. Because they really are the city administrator for all practical purposes, because they're the only one that the city, you know, a city of 4,000 may not have an administrator yet. They're just getting around to starting having an administrator at that size, right? So, well, 2,000 be more like the cutoff is where I see it. You know, once the city grows to 2,000 or more, they start thinking about hiring an administrator. But like a lot of small cities just have a clerk and that's it. That's usually the repository of 90% of the information is the clerk, and, you know, they kind of know enough to make decisions.
Well,
And they
we're-
call the
yeah.
mayor if they don't know what to do, is what they do in these small towns. Well, now my suggestion was the clerk, and then the mayor and the city attorney will advise, right? But I don't care. I think Matt's solution is perfectly fine as well. It doesn't matter as long as we have some designated chain of command.
And we talked about it last night. but
Krista would help out
the-
whatever she needed to
The
do.
being away from desk is a old euphemism from 1990s, because, yes, we're on vacation, but we're never away from our desk. And so I think we'd also need to set up parameters with the person, because we don't need them to come in and rewrite the books while, you know, the city administrator's gone. And also put them at ease a little bit, because it's not like, hey, you need to get all this, I'm gonna leave all this until I leave for 2 weeks and you have to get it done. No. It'll be more like a teaming effort to understand that, because I'm still gonna stay engaged with what's going on. But I think it was, at the time, in 2019, January, when Eric passed, the mayor was actually in Florida, so he wasn't here and he couldn't get back. And so we did things differently, because there was a lot of stuff that has to take place when you have a death of a city employee. It just, that's how it worked out. But we were set up and ready to go. That would be a case like this as well. So somebody that's already ready to step in and be able to do that, so.
Cool.
I'd look at a motion to move this to the next business meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion from Oberon, second from Davis to move this forward to the business meeting. Any other discussion? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Summers.
Yes.
Detterman. Yes. Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oberon.
Yes.
Mussman.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
All right. Updates, I'll direct you over here to the National Safety Town letter. And Councilmember Oberon, you want to talk about it for a second?
So back on June 2nd, 1975, we received this letter. Of course, it was 8.5 by 11. It's just blown up. But we received this letter for being the first community with a safety town program. That was 50 years ago. So starting on Monday, there will be the first session of Safety Town that, you know, Little Madison is going to be going into. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
And so
It's
it's
the
a pretty
fi-
big deal, you know.
50th
from,
year.
50th year.
COVID did not stop Safety Town.
Yep, it
It
did
is
not.
consecutive, so we
Yep.
didn't. They did not miss during that year. It was a little altered a little bit,
It was
but they still
altered a
had
little
it.
bit, but it
Yeah.
still went through, yeah.
So, yeah, they do. They have 3 weeks, right? Yeah,
Yes,
3
3
weeks.
weeks,
3
yeah,
weeks,
3 weeks.
and then graduations at the end. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And there's 40 or 45 in each session.
Did anybody go through Safety Town up here? I did. I'm just asking. Did you go through Safety Town? No? Pat? Krista did Safety Town? Exactly. Huh? I don't think so.
Not the first one, not the first one.
Yeah.
What year did you go?
It would have been 1990. 1990? Yeah. You're in the 2000s? Yeah, yeah. I think, so, just real quick, I do the graduation for Safety Town every year, and it's really cool to watch. Okay, raise your hand if you went through Safety Town. Raise your hand if your kids went through Safety Town, and everybody has their hand raised there. It's pretty cool. So there's,
And like when we did it out of Parks and Rec, everybody whose grandkid is now in Safety
right,
Town.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
it's pretty neat.
That,
So-
you know that's been
Are
around
you
a
saying
long
Pat
time.
needs to go through, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Is there any other updates, Councilmember Oberon?
I just want to make sure everybody is invited to Clinton Community College next Monday night. The River City Municipal Band will be conducted by our honorable mayor, hopefully. If he's not other places. But this will be the 5th time, right?
Did we do it year one?
I think we did it
Year one was COVID.
Yeah, so we did.
Did we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So 5th, yeah.
Your 5-year pin.
So 5th year, yeah, you get a 5.
I'm almost in the band.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost in the band. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anything
So-
else from anyone? All right. We are adjourned.